Once upon a time, in a world filled with inspirational quotes, self-help books, and people who pretended to wake up at 5 a.m. to meditate, there was a guy named Tim Tim. Tim Tim was like most of us, absolutely convinced that success was all about working harder, hustling more, and grinding until his bones turned to dust. He watched motivational videos at least 10 times a day, each time more convinced that if he didn't achieve his dreams by the age of 30, he would literally die from the pressure. Armed with nothing but his overcaffeinated spirit and an unyielding drive to win, Tim Tim set out to conquer life. He wrote endless to-do lists, followed every productivity guru on the planet, and spent his weekends plotting out his life's purpose, which, according to his latest Google search, was to live like Elon Musk, work like a robot, and sleep 4 hours a day. It didn't take long before Tim Tim was drowning in his own ambition. His days were filled with back-to-back meetings, unnecessary apps to track his progress, and the occasional fleeting moment when he realized he hadn't eaten anything all day. But no worries, he didn't have time for food. Food was a distraction. Success was his full-time job, baby. So what happened, you ask? Well, after months of this relentless grind, Tim Tim found himself, not much further along than when he started. Sure, he had a pile of half-finished projects, an impressive collection of inspirational quotes taped to his desk, and an existential crisis that he couldn't really put into words. But still success? Not exactly. So Tim Tim did what any modern-day hero would do. He turned to the universe for guidance. The power of Wu Wei in life. Spoiler alert, it's not about hustling. One day, in the midst of scrolling through his 70-second productivity podcast of the week, Tim Tim stumbled across something revolutionary. Something that would change his entire life. Or at least his weekend plans. It was called Wu Wei. He didn't know what it was at first, but after Googling it, because of course that's how you discover enlightenment in the 21st century, he found out that it was an ancient Taoist concept that means effortless action, or non-action. Wait, what? Non-action? Wasn't he supposed to be hustling until he had a mental breakdown? Confused, Tim Tim dove deeper into the meaning of Wu Wei, and his mind was blown. It wasn't about doing less, it was about doing the right things at the right time. It was like discovering that all the motivational speeches he'd been listening to were giving him the wrong map. What he was really looking for was the GPS to avoid traffic altogether. It was like the universe had just sent him a do not disturb message. Suddenly, all of Tim Tim's brain cells started firing in a way that he felt both terrifying and liberating. If he didn't have to work 80-hour weeks to succeed, what the heck had he been doing all this time? Apparently, he was like the guy who keeps trying to start a lawnmower for 20 minutes without realizing it's not plugged in. Patience and flow. Or how Tim Tim learned to do nothing. Tim Tim finally realized that he wasn't a superhero. He didn't need to do everything. Nature doesn't rush. Trees don't wake up at 5 a.m. and hit the gym, so why should Tim Tim? Flowers bloom when they're ready. Rivers flow without anyone yelling at them to go faster. So why was he forcing everything in his life to happen at lightning speed? Maybe he could just chill out a little. Maybe he didn't need to crush every goal to feel worthy. Maybe it was okay to enjoy the ride. Tim Tim thought about how everything around him was unfolding without his help. The sun came up every day without him sending it an email. The flowers blossomed without his approval. The universe was kind of doing its own thing without its frantic hustle. So maybe he could just let go of the need to control everything. Tim Tim decided to embrace Wu Wei. He stopped setting alarm clocks, threw his to-do lists in the trash, don't worry, he took a picture of them for Instagram first, and started trusting the process. He decided that sometimes the best thing he could do was to let life unfold without forcing it. The art of letting go. But only if you're not Tim Tim. This part was tricky. Letting go was a hard concept for Tim Tim to grasp, especially when he'd spent the last few years trying to control every tiny detail of his existence. But then he thought, what if I just stopped stressing about everything? What if I let go of my obsession with success? Maybe success doesn't need me to chase it every single second of the day. And thus, Tim Tim made the ultimate discovery. Success didn't need him to chase it so much as it needed him to stop running away from it. It wasn't about being busy or active all the time. It was about aligning with the natural rhythm of life. A rhythm that didn't include him constantly checking his email or refreshing his stock portfolio. Sure, he was still working hard, but now he was doing it when he felt inspired, not because his planner told him he had to. If Tim Tim wasn't in the mood for something, he didn't do it. Instead of writing a book about productivity, he wrote one about how to chill out and still get things done. Trusting the process. AKA, stop stressing, Tim Tim. Tim Tim finally got it. He didn't have to work 24/7. He didn't need to check his email 40 times a day. He didn't need to compare himself to everyone on Instagram. Success wasn't a competition. It was more like a slow dance with life. He was too busy trying to outdance everyone else that he'd missed the music. The world was already on its course. The seasons change whether Tim Tim is ready or not. Flowers bloom, people grow, and even the most ambitious plans sometimes have to take a nap. Tim Tim realized that when he aligned his efforts with the natural flow of life, he wasn't wasting time. He was giving himself space to live fully. The wisdom of Wu Wei in everyday life, aka Tim Tim learns to laugh at himself. In the end, Tim Tim started to look at life like a long, winding road trip. You can't rush a road trip. You can't plan every single pit stop. Sometimes you have to let life surprise you. And guess what? He was still reaching his goals. Sometimes he took the scenic route. Sometimes he took a nap by the side of the road. And sometimes he got lost. But in the end, it all led to the same place. And maybe, just maybe, he was enjoying the journey a little more than he ever thought he would.